This is The Blockchain Show.
The Blockchain Show is a podcast that demystifies and promotes widespread adoption of cryptocurrencies and distributed ledger technology. This week on the show, we have Roz Stengle, who's a regular listener of the show, and she's a sophomore at Madison, Wisconsin, on the front lines. Her team recently won 10,000 Quantum Coin at the St. Louis Hackathon. Are you looking for an easy way to buy Bitcoin or Ether on a safe, secure platform? Coinbase is the easiest place to buy and sell digital currencies. Sign up today as a friend of the Blockchain Show, and if you buy or sell $100 of Bitcoin or more, you'll earn $10 of free Bitcoin for yourself and $10 of Bitcoin to support this show. Join now using the link in this episode's show notes at theblockchainshow.com. So, Rosalind, you are studying in Madison. And what is your actual course of study title?
Computer science and economics with an emphasis in math.
How long have you been studying in Madison?
I've done my first year of undergrad.
It is?
Just one.
Well, you see that
Just one.
You have won. Your team won the Quantum at the hackathon.
It's a new currency, yes.
Can you tell me about whatever you won for in this hackathon?
Yeah, so the hackathon was put on by Distributed, which I think is a branch of BTC Media. And they have a couple of different events throughout the year. And this one in particular was focused on trade. So over the weekend, there was a hackathon. And then the Monday afterwards, there was a conference, which I also attended, which was fun. The hackathon, normally I go to MLH hackathons, which are like university level. But I was convinced by some my fellow nerds, I guess, to go to this one that was more like industry level, which I found to be intimidating, but then turned out to be a good time.
What were you thinking was going to be the intimidating part?
So MLH, which is Major League Hacking, is the university level like competition, and there's an emphasis on learning at those. Like if you go and you don't have a skill set, there are mentors there to help you learn it, or like nobody's really, I mean, it's fun to win, but like the point isn't to win, the point is to learn a new skill.
Yeah, cool.
And I was sort of used to that mindset, and the idea of competing with professional developers is a little scary.
Well, good on you.
Yeah, it turned out to be good.
Got you 10,000 worth of Quantum.
Yeah.
What are you going to do with it?
Probably hold it for a little while. So the actual, not even the test net is up. It's very, very new. Don't really know where it's going to go yet, but I think I'm going to hang on to it for a little while. Are
you from Madison?
No, I'm actually from New Jersey.
And you jog around Madison listening to the Blockchain Show, huh?
Yeah, I did for a bit, and then I stopped running. I was only running because my grandma was doing a race and wanted me to do it with her. My grandma's really cool. I can't say no to her. So to force myself to go running, I would listen to the show, because at the same time I was just getting into blockchain.
That's cool.
Yeah, so then
that lake is awesome.
I wanted to listen to the show, but I really didn't want to go running. And so then it was like about the length of time it takes me to get to the gym and run and then come back. And so it worked out. And I was like, you just can't listen to it unless you're exercising. So it worked for a while, and then the race happened, and I stopped running and just listened to the show.
Right on. What is this other thing? You said there was also a consensus. You were at Consensus in 2017 in New York after receiving a scholarship.
Consensus is the big blockchain conference. It's an international thing in Times Square. And so I started reading about blockchain and like getting into it this March, and basically just read all the time.
What got you into it, if I may interrupt you? Sorry.
I don't remember. It was spring break, and I was bored and listening to TED Talks and reading articles, and I came across it, and then kept reading about it, and then came across the scholarship to Consensus and applied, and then just kept learning about it.
Wow, that was a pretty quick progression. Neat.
Yeah, it was very interesting. There's a lot of things like I'll read about them and I'm like, that's cool, I don't need to read more. But it was really exciting, and I wanted to keep reading. I'm still not bored of it, which is pretty wild. So.
That is really wild. I'm so happy to hear you say that. You're very mathematically minded, but I can see that you're creative too, obviously, because you just keep on getting fascinated by it.
Yeah, I think it's really cool from a theoretical perspective. A lot of people like it from like, oh, it'll make me money, or like, oh, the specific use case. But I think like the overall mentality of it is really cool. Like I like the idea of software being democratic.
Yes, me too. and that you can make money while working on something that's actually an improvement upon a system.
Right.
Instead of like investing in a decaying, decrepit thing, you sort of assisting something blossom.
So a lot of people will talk to me about like, oh, like I hope Bitcoin prices go up because like all my money is in Bitcoin or whatever like that. And to me, like that's exciting. It's exciting to make money, but I think it's more cool as an overall system. And I'm just here to wait it out. I think I want to see where it goes in the long run, and that's much more interesting than like Bitcoin prices next week.
Yeah, I agree with you. So wait, this is going to sound like a sidetrack, but what do you do instead of running now? Do you do anything meditative?
No, I should. I just like to read and learn all the time.
What is it what's the latest thing you've been reading? What's been piquing your interest most recently?
Mostly blockchain. I've also been getting into like just the past couple weeks, different kinds of voting systems.
Yeah.
So different ways to aggregate people's preferences and how, depending on the system you use, it can change the outcome. I think that's an interesting problem that.
Yes, I'm very fascinated.
Haven't really figured out.
That's what really interests me the very most. So what's cutting edge on that? I mean, you're the one who's really on the front lines.
I don't know. Well, I just found out about a project that's happening in Madison this morning.
See? Talk about front lines.
Yeah, right. It's very exciting. So it's like a group of civic hackers that are building a preferential voting system to determine the ordering of things that get budgeted in a legislative chamber. So right now, when a city council or something is voting on a budget, sometimes things that are important to everyone don't receive funding because of their arbitrary place on the list of items, which is just ridiculous. Like something shouldn't not receive attention just because of the process. That's silly. So the goal is to build a platform, hopefully that's easy for senators to use, that allows them to input their preferences and then aggregate that information and then present it in a way that everyone, or like the things that are most important to everyone, receive attention.
Right. So then there would be, because this is decentralized, then it also would naturally bring about more transparency, right? We actually know what they're doing. There's none of that behind closed door. Well, there's still going to be, I suppose, behind closed doors stuff, but maybe a little less difficult to, or more difficult to hide.
So there was discussion of the different algorithms to use to like of voting, things like that, but also potentially expanding it to just beyond within government and to like citizens voting on how they want their own tax money allocated, which I think is an interesting use case.
Absolutely. I would love it if we could just keep having them kind of go down to smaller and smaller, I suppose, levels of government. I've had my own little thoughts while I'm out walking. I'll have, that's when I, like when you're driving or taking a shower, wherever you do your sort of meditative thing where ideas come in. And I was like, wouldn't it be great if you did sort of have that system? Like, I live in a really neat little community, and I could imagine our own little, like you say, voting system, because within a community, that's really where it's going to affect you most, and then my town, and then whatever. But I would love to be able to vote on some of these crusty old policies that were put in place by people who lived here 30 years ago and aren't really relevant to the people who are here now.
Right. Completely automate the boring parts of government. Yeah.
But even just like the way that we have Craigslist or like I'm thinking Topanga next door or whatever, wherever you live, Smallville next door or Springfield next door, how you do your little local trading and selling, and then just having like a little hey, welcome to our neighborhood. If you want to, vote on how we do things, here's our little app for how we vote within our neighborhood. I'd like to have one of those.
And it's cool because if it's technology, or I guess like something accessible like that, then more people can participate, which makes it even more democratic.
Right, and the information is all right there, so everyone's literally on the same page.
Yeah.
That's nice. Cool. So tell me what else is happening in Madison. What about your contemporaries? Are you going for like people in your classes? Are you gathering in groups there and going to these conferences together? Is that how you do it? I don't know. I'm the person when it comes to blockchain. I'm the one that we have to explain things to. So tell me about it.
I'm still at that point too. All I do is ask questions and listen.
That's pretty wise.
It's not a bad place to be. Yeah.
But are there many women amongst your ranks wherever you go in the blockchain circles?
Not too many.
Yeah. After doing this show, you're the second female, I think, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Whoa
is us. Whatever.
Yeah.
You make up for it.
So at this hackathon and conference this past weekend, I went with a group of people from the Blockchain Education Network, which is a global nonprofit with local chapters at universities, with students that lead different kinds of workshops and things like that. I think I was the only girl in the group out of 15 people, but that's not unusual. I think it's not a blockchain specific problem. I think it's a tech problem.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it doesn't make it less bad.
It probably makes you extra popular. No?
Maybe.
Certainly a unique perspective amongst your peers.
Makes me stand out, maybe.
Yeah. Right on. So what sorts of classes is a person at Madison, if you wanted to be learning about the blockchain, how would you be doing that if you're on a college campus?
Well, at this point, there aren't really classes. There's nothing in Madison,
That's
as far as I know.
mind-blowing.
If there is, I would love to be a part of it. So what I know of is that Berkeley has a big blockchain club, and they have a course that all the information's online. So sometimes I'll watch those lectures.
Uh-huh.
And there's a lot of stuff on blogs and things online, or on Reddit, or just different places that I can read about, but there isn't really one place with a syllabus to follow. And you kind of have to just look things up as you come across them, which is a little frustrating, but kind of exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. You're a pioneer. You're truly a pioneer.
Yeah. It's cool that it's new enough that there's nothing. And so anything that you create is really distinct, but it's also frustrating because there's not a lot of structure.
Yes. Yes.
So at this point, as far as I know, there aren't classes officially. So even the Berkeley thing is run by students. I think because the space is so new, if there were to be a class, by the time a professor were to design the syllabus, by the time you're taking finals, it'll all be out of date. It's a little too cutting edge for academia, I think, at this point.
You're right. That's pretty funny. It is. For the first time obviously in my life, but I kept saying, as you probably know on this show, I want to be using it more. I want to really be using it. And I wanted to go to a Chick Corea show here in Los Angeles. And I don't like to hire babysitters. It's very, very nerve-wracking for me. But there is a person out there who was actually interested in babysitting for Bitcoin. That's an actual conversation I'm having.
That's cool.
Yeah. Because they had met somebody, a very interesting person out in the desert somewhere, some Spaniard out in the desert who was, whomever that is a fascinating person. And he's like, look, I'm making Bitcoin, showing it his I guess, must be solar panels, many of them.
Yeah, I've heard a little bit about that. Somebody was telling me they wanted to buy up a bunch of solar panels and make a shed that just has solar panels on the roof and inside a bunch of mining rigs. And just have it produced.
Yeah. Sounds like what he had, a lovely, just a Bitcoin production facility, just sort of churning away. Lovely. But it made this is actually a friend of mine, but it made him interested enough to really actually want to find a way to get Bitcoin.
Right. Yeah. I wish it were more commonly used, I guess. So Madison has a really fabulous farmers market. That's where I was this morning, just kind of walking around and buying vegetables. But most of them don't take card because it's a huge inconvenience, right?
Yes.
But I was like, what if all these farmers would accept Bitcoin? This would be great.
So
that I
great.
could buy lots of green beans. Yeah.
It'd be so easy, so nice. Just ding. There's like cool. At least 5 to 10 awesome ideas right there in this show.
Right. Yeah. Go to a hackathon and then learn about it and implement them.
Yeah. Are they actually fun? I mean, I hear about these things. Do you have
they're
fun?
Really fun.
Yeah.
But I think you have to be a little bit insane already to like them.
Oh, well, that sounds like my wheelhouse.
But yeah, it's my kind of thing.
Yay. So
it's like very...
Who's your favorite superhero?
My favorite superhero. Ooh. I really like the weird ones that Marvel tried to make happen and then didn't. Like Squirrel Girl.
Ooh. Didn't know she existed.
Just sort of strange old failed superheroes I think are kind of funny. There was one called Arms Fall Off Boy, whose arms fell off and then he threw them at people. As for actual superheroes, I don't know, Captain America.
Wow, you're like a wealth of information. I think we're going to say something. I remember Lobo. He was one of my favorites, and I was wondering why didn't they make Lobo? Lobo was awesome. He was an intergalactic bounty hunter. On a flying motorcycle. But the arms fall off.
Fantasy.
How can he throw them if he doesn't have arms, though? Do they grow back so quickly that he can?
Idea.
All right. Well, I have to tell you, I am cooking in a garage, and I also have children, so I was going to wrap this up. But I was so glad I got to talk to you. Before we do, is there anything that is happening in your world or anything that you've come across? We can edit this particular part out, but is there anything you come across news-wise or that you just thought was something you want to put on the show?
Ooh, I get most of my news from the show, so I don't know if I can.
Are you serious?
Yeah, a little bit.
I'm so glad you're out there. You made me really happy today.
I'm happy to be on the show.
Thank you. Cool. Thank you for being so brave and bold and venturing where very few people go and pioneering and doing all sorts of great ideas and fun stuff. You're a very inspiring person. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for putting that information out there. It really helped me a lot.
Here's a couple bits. The UN sends aid to thousands, about 10,000, of Syrian refugees using Ethereum's blockchain. Mastercard and Cisco join Enterprise Ethereum Alliance. The Enterprise Ethereum Alliance, EEA, was recently joined by 34 new members, including Mastercard and Cisco. On July 18th, 2017, the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance published a press release claiming that, with the 34 new members and the total size of 150-plus participants, the EEA became the world's largest open-source blockchain initiative. According to the consortium, which focuses on developments of the Ethereum blockchain, the newest members of EEA represent a wide variety of business sectors, including technology, banking, government, healthcare, energy, pharmaceuticals, marketing, and insurance, as well as a number of fast-growing Ethereum startups. The main concept of the nonprofit is to build, promote, and broadly support Ethereum-based technology.
What's going on with the fork?
Well, I'll continue.
Of course.
Others who originally backed the SegWit's proposal appear to be losing confidence in an eventual block size increase and are now taking matters into their own hands by making their own version of Bitcoin. And they're doing so on a short timeline. Does any of this make sense to you yet? Do you understand this so far?
Yes.
You do? Okay,
yes,
well.
of course.
On August 1st, at precisely 12:20 UTC, the group claims that they will split off from Bitcoin, creating a new cryptocurrency called Bitcoin Cash.
Fuck yeah, finally.
Finally, you've been waiting so long?
Not really.
Oh. Well, sounds like this is a big deal. Like a big deal.
And what about this Callan Kulianu?
You're so educated. He's the developer who's contributing code to an implementation of Bitcoin Cash. So.
And he's the one who's talking to CoinDesk, this article, right?
Yes, exactly. And he told CoinDesk if the SegWit 2 agreement fails to implement the 2x part, which is not entirely unreasonable and only ends up being basically SegWit without the 2x, many miners will likely defect to Bitcoin Cash. That's what he says.
Man, it's going to be like China. It always comes back to China.
What is Bitcoin Cash? So what is it, and how does it differ from Bitcoin? There are two main changes of note. It increases the block size to 8 megabytes.
Yeah, 8. It's quite a bit more.
Right?
I guess. I mean, when you're used to, 2? 8's a big step up.
It removes SegWit, a code change that might activate on the Bitcoin blockchain by the end of August. So that's what that means.
I just really want a stack of that Bitcoin Cash, even if it's...
That would be awesome.
fake or
They make it
whatever.
look so nice.
Yeah.
So, Kulianu said that both Bitcoin Unlimited and Bitcoin Classic, other than implementations that aim to increase Bitcoin's block size, are working on a version compatible with Bitcoin Cash. These might or might not be ready for August 1st.
Well, there you go, folks. Now you know a little more. We don't know anything more than that because Steve is celebrating his birthday.
That's right. Happy birthday,
of this recording.
Steve.
And he's...
Wait, I have one more thing. I'm sure I'm going to say something wrong here, too. In a PSA statement, Bitcoin.com said that it will allow miners in its pool to choose if they want to mine the Bitcoin Cash token BCC. For now, though, it will mine on SegWit's 2x chain, though it said it will immediately shift all company resources to supporting Bitcoin Cash exclusively if the block size increase part of SegWit, scheduled roughly 3 months from now, falls through. There you go. That's your PSA.
See what happens. Do wisely with what you have, folks.
Act wisely. Ledger Wallet is a smart card-based Bitcoin hardware wallet bringing maximum protection level to your Bitcoins without sacrificing usability or control. Find the link in this episode's show notes. The Blockchain Show is a team effort by Steve Anderson, Heather Sullivan, Ethan Kinderconnect, and Sarah Hanfling. To learn more, visit theblockchainshow.com.